survivor's name, the victim's survivor's name.
Hello and welcome to a very special broadcast, viewers, where we open the vault on the Epstein files. We take you where few cameras have gone before, inside Epstein's empire of sin, and unmask the monster behind the money, the power and the mayhem. Make no mistake, these are not just fleeting takes that disappear like the morning mist. These are explosive, shocking, shame-soaked revelations that reach into the highest corridors of global power. A gilded world where sleaze wore a tuxedo, where sin rubbed shoulders with status, and where secrets were the real currency. The world's most powerful financier, a man who dined with the who's who of politics, business, Hollywood, a convicted sex offender, and a black book packed with the global elite. Champagne on the surface, darkness underneath. And today on NDTV, we connect the dots, follow the money, and lay the facts bare. Some surprising, some damaging, but all bizarre and most certainly dystopian. I'm Gauri Dwivedi, and I'll tell you why the Epstein files have become the global tremor that's shaking governments, rattling reputations, and rewriting the rules of power. The US House Judiciary Committee became a battleground for Democrats and Republicans as the Trump administration faces massive criticism for not fighting for justice for the victims of sexual crimes committed by Epstein and his high-profile clientele. From Norway to France to India, leaders are caught in the crossfire as 3.5 million documents indicate many high-profile A-listers came in contact with the disgraced sexual predator. Former Prime Minister of Norway becomes the latest to be linked to the files. And the heat is building up on British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who's seen two high-profile exits from his government, his chief of staff and his communications director. Starmer faces charges of impropriety. Is the UK PM now on borrowed time? Now, governments around the world, leaders across nations are on tenterhooks. Millions of documents were released by the US government last month. The fallout of these revelations have been sensational due to the sheer number of people that have been involved and the sheer scale at which minor girls have been abused, raped, molested, and trafficked. And worse still, many have been named as well. There is no focus on getting those young girls any justice. Who all have been named? What happens next? Will the victims actually get any justice whatsoever? Will it now be all about politics in America? All those are questions that we're going to get to in this special broadcast. But let me first tell you the story so far.
The long-running Jeffrey Epstein files controversy has taken a new turn, as survivors and US lawmakers alike push back against how the Justice Department released millions of pages of documents tied to the convicted sex offender. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier whose network of powerful friends and associates became national infamy after his arrest in 2019 on federal charges of sex trafficking minors. He died in federal custody in what officials ruled a suicide. But questions about who was involved and what authorities knew have never really fully gone away. Under a law passed last year, the US Justice Department was ordered to publish its files related to the case. But the process has been anything but smooth. Critics say the department's redactions were inconsistent, at times exposing personal information about survivors while withholding or obscuring the names of others tied to Epstein. Many victims have voiced sharp objections to the release of their names and sensitive details online, saying it further compounds their trauma and privacy violations.
This is pathetic, Mr. Chair. I was curious.
US Attorney General Pam Bondi faced intense questioning from both parties over how the files were handled. In a combative session before the House Judiciary Committee, Bondi was pressed by lawmakers, including Republicans.
Marlon, anything about Epstein, not once when he was
Weak sauce.
And
Weak sauce.
also, I want the record to reflect that
Some lawmakers demanded apologies directly to the victims present in the hearing room.
within 40 minutes.
Bondi pushed back, dismissing parts of the questioning as political theatrics. She insisted the department followed the law and promised corrections where needed.
Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush.
The controversy shows no signs of fading, with survivors demanding accountability and lawmakers sparring over transparency and justice long after Epstein's death. Closing the book on this chapter may prove as complex as the network of relationships the files have exposed. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
All right, viewers, let's now get you the names that are involved in the Epstein mess. And these are, in fact, names across the country. And by the way, at no point of time this list is exhaustive. Just a few out of those many who are in the dock across the world. You have Prince Andrew first in the UK, who was named. In fact, there were very serious charges. There was also a very damning picture that came out of Prince Andrew. The charge against him was that he raped a minor girl. He denied those charges, but he's now a disgraced royal, stripped of all his royal titles. Next up, from the UK, we now go to the US, where that is a picture of Jeffrey Epstein along with the President of United States. There have been thousands of references to Donald Trump. There are a range of uncorroborated stories. Donald Trump and White House have dismissed all those allegations, but thousands of references point and indicate that there could be more than what these files seem to indicate. Possibly there's more in the files that haven't come out. In the US, there's another big name that has come out, Elon Musk. His name also shows up, and the latest release is that email exchanges took place between Elon Musk and Jeffrey Epstein in 2012 and 2013. And in fact, they discussed visiting Jeffrey Epstein's island several times as well. Did he go or not is still unknown. The emails do not seem to indicate that. But the discussion of a possible visit to Jeffrey Epstein's island, the one where all those misdemeanors happened, was mentioned in those emails. Next up, we now move to Israel, where you see former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who's also now in the dock. His name has surfaced repeatedly in documents that, and it indicates that the two were actually in contact. That is Barak and Epstein. They were in contact not for just a couple of times, but probably for years. He says that he never observed any inappropriate behavior whatsoever on part of Jeffrey Epstein. As I said, this is how the situation looks right now. There are still more documents that are yet to be released, and who knows how the picture changes then. Jack Lang, let's get you another name. Former minister in France. As I said, this is a global story. You can see across the board, country after country, where you are seeing names surfacing, and all powerful people. Former minister, former prime minister, former royalty, all of them in the dock. Allegation against him was that past financial links with Jeffrey Epstein, and that meant that he quit a plum job due to those ties. Is that good enough? Is that enough accountability? Well, those are questions that British people are asking, and the British public is asking these people. But now it's time, viewers, to tell you exactly how these Epstein files are reshaping American politics. The House Judiciary Committee hearing, if it's anything to go by, it seems that the Epstein probe and the Epstein issue is in fact far from over. This could actually dominate American politics going forward. And to understand this, let's get in Spencer Crishley, who is a Democrat political analyst, joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Spencer, thanks so much for speaking to us on this very special edition. Let me start by asking you, the fireworks that we all saw in the House Judiciary Committee indicate that this is now the main political issue in America right now.
I think that the scandal keeps getting worse, not just because of the slow release of these files revealing more and more damning evidence, but because of the behavior of the Trump administration, which gives every indication of an aggressive cover-up. If it somehow turns out that President Trump has nothing to fear or is not protecting his friends and allies, then their behavior will be inexplicable. And Attorney General Pam Bondi's appearance before Congress was just the latest example of this. She was not behaving as the people's lawyer, which is what she is. She is the lawyer for the people of the United States. She was behaving as a political operative, aggressively trying to protect one person, her client, President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump and the administration, Pam Bondi, they've all along said that, look, we are the ones who are actually taking this forward, and we should be credited for ensuring that we are taking the path towards justice, and the Democrats are the ones who are actually holding it back or have held it back so far.
Yes, well, as is so often the case, I mean, you can almost count on it with the Trump administration. This is the exact opposite of the truth. It's not just untrue. It's the diametric opposite of the truth. The only reason that law was passed forcing the release of the files was because that was what was required to get the Trump administration, the Trump Justice Department, to release the files. Now, Pam Bondi claims they released them in an act of transparency. They were digging in their heels and kicking and screaming to resist, to avoid releasing those files. Now they claim they were being transparent when they finally were forced to release them by an act of Congress. An act, by the way, which would not have been required if the president were not refusing to release the files. This is something that is well within his authority as president.
Okay, and needn't have gone all the way to Congress. Okay, but you know, I'm now going to ask you a big picture question, sir, which is that the Epstein files issue is obviously far from over, especially when you look at some of the other countries. But it almost looks like a done deal as far as America is concerned. It's tragic and shameful.
It looks clear that there's a lot of extremely shady stuff that's been going on involving wealthy and powerful people across the world, as you say, for a very long time, apparently going back decades. And so there's a lot of culpability to go around here because it's a long time ago that Jeffrey Epstein was convicted and imprisoned with a very light sentence, mind you, for the sexual abuse of children. And yet many of these people at least remained very friendly with him for years afterwards, which itself is shocking. But that said, now that it's all coming out, other countries are far ahead of the United States so far in pursuing accountability, as we see in Britain and elsewhere. Norway, France, they're pursuing this aggressively. And I hate to say it, but I think it's because at the very least there's a more intact sense of shame, apparently, among the elites in those countries, a sense of shame that is evidently entirely missing, at least from the Trump administration and its allies here in the United States.
Right. Pam Bondi, in fact, did not look at those survivors as well. And every one of them said that they weren't able to contact the Justice Department till now. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks much, Mr. Spencer, for speaking to us on this special broadcast. Turning attention now from the US to UK. As I said, this is a global story, not just about America. And the upheaval at Downing Street is now becoming even more intense as the pressure is mounting on Keir Starmer. In fact, several Labour MPs now feel that Keir Starmer must make way for another leader, since the charges are not just grave, but they also constitute several key violations. Now, the entire issue is that you have Peter Mandelson, Starmer's key aide, who's been named in the Epstein files, and it's alleged that he was actually trading important details. It was not just that he knew Epstein, but the relationship went far more than that. And that's an explosive charge that actually can bring down a government. Now, add to this the Tories that have been pushing for Starmer's blood. The Conservatives say that they lost their very popularly elected government under Boris Johnson due to issues of impropriety. And the yardstick should be the same when it comes to Keir Starmer as well. I'm going to play out that soundbite of a defiant Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and then we talk more on how long he can stay in 10 Downing Street.
Making the decision to have appointed him in the first place. Had I known at the time what I know now or knew in September, I'd have never done it. And that's why today I've apologised for the fact that I appointed him in the first place and I believed his lies.
The monarchy has taken action against Andrew, and yesterday is another example of that. I think as long as it is only an Andrew situation, then I think the monarchy will be safe. The king is popular, the queen is well received, and the two most popular members of the royal family are the Prince and Princess of Wales. So I don't, it tarnishes the monarchy, of course it does. But I think the monarchy as an institution is still there, and as long as it continues to have the support of politicians in Westminster and a good, clear majority of support amongst the public, the monarchy is pretty safe regardless of what happens.
All right, those were important sound bites coming in from the UK. Let's get in Nicholas Nugent joining us on the broadcast for his take on how long Keir Starmer can delay the inevitable. Or is it actually inevitable right now? Nicholas, let me start by asking you just that. What is it looking like for Keir Starmer? Can he survive this storm?
Well, I'm not going to predict how long he'll last. I will only say that it is very serious indeed for him. He seems to have ridden the storm last week and gained the support of a majority of the Parliamentary Labour Party. That's what matters. But so many voices have been raised against him, including privately from cabinet members. We don't know who they are, but there's so much criticism. But let's look at what this is about, because we've already lost the highest profile victim of this scandal. That's to say, the British ambassador to Washington, Lord Mandelson. And that reflects so badly on the Prime Minister and his team, because they, against some advice, appointed him to this very, very important role. Of course, he's a gay man, so he wasn't implicated in the paedophilia or the misogyny.
That's an assumption, sir.
I'm sorry?
That's an assumption.
All right, that's an assumption. But the point I'm making is that he's being fingered for other reasons, for corruption reasons, suggested corruption. I mean, everything is assumptions, because the fact that people's names appear in the Epstein files does not make them guilty of an offence. I think that's a point you need to make very clearly, because all those people you've mentioned, we only know that they are associated with Epstein. They don't know of any particular wrongdoing in most cases, and that's what I'm saying. What's worrying about the Mandelson affair is that it appears to point at some corruption, breaching confidentiality.
Nicholas Nugent, thanks so much for speaking to us. Keir Starmer may be on borrowed time. He's lost political capital. His government is weakened, and that has been the big impact of the Epstein files in UK as well. We're talking about Prince Andrew's. Well, I'm going to play out this report, viewers, that tells you about the disgraced royal who's now lost all his royal titles, given his deep linkages with the Epstein files. Shocking details in this report.
A dramatic turn in a royal scandal shaking the UK and reverberating around the world. Former royal, once known as Prince Andrew, has officially vacated his iconic Windsor residence, Royal Lodge. The development came in the wake of his brother King Charles III's decision to strip him of his royal titles and honours. The Royal Lodge is a 30-room mansion, long synonymous with privilege, power, and now controversy. In a symbolic end to his life as a senior royal, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor walked away from the estate that he had called home for more than 2 decades. The move followed an extraordinary decree by King Charles that saw Andrew stripped of the style and titles he once held. The resignation from this stately home comes amid intensified scrutiny over his past association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a major embarrassment for Andrew, it has been reported that the King is ready to support UK police examining claims that the former prince gave confidential information to Epstein. His former wife, Sarah Ferguson, who also lived at Royal Lodge, has now moved out and is charting her own course, even as previously released documents have drawn renewed attention to her past correspondence with Epstein. As this royal saga continues to unfold, questions of accountability, legacy, and the very future of the monarchy now hang in the balance. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
All right, viewers, we're slipping into a very short break. We come back on the other side and tell you the story in India. Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has also been caught in the crosshairs as far as the Epstein files saga is concerned. We play out what he said with regard to his name being in those files. Stay with us. Now in India, Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri's name has cropped up in the Epstein files. The minister has clarified that he had met the financier just 3 or 4 times in his entire tenure, and that too in relation only with talking up the India investment. Listen in to what he told my colleague Padmaja Joshi.
If I have to step down or being asked to step down, then I think people are living in cuckoo land. There must be something else I would have done. But because I met a person 11 years ago or 12 or 14 years ago, actually 14, 2013 and 14, which is about 12 years ago when I was not a part of the government, okay? Those guys had this thing. In UK, the storm is about Peter Mandelson. The guy was passing on information to him, information which was tradable. And he was passing on information. This is a violation of all kinds of ethics rules. I'm not getting into, I know Peter Mandelson, etc. So please, if we have the ability to draw a distinction between one and the other. So
moral responsibility hoti hai. Guilt by association.
Guilt by association, to meet a person twice. Tomorrow you go and commit a crime and somebody shows the clip of mine saying you're guilt or you met Padmaja Joshi and so and so. All kinds of things people will say about you. Yeah? And so just because I gave you an interview, meri guilt by association hogi. This Alice in Wonderland characters, Alice in Cuckooland, his father was the Prime Minister when I went to meet Mr. Prabhakaran, crossing the mines in Jaffna. Okay, and I flew him here for the India-Sri Lanka peace agreement. Now, because I met a terrorist, wo ho gaya. I mean, look at what the standards are. I said, listen, out of all this, if they want to come on something, I would advise them, don't take a 10-second clip from one of my interviews and put an AI generation on it. Please look at the context. What was the context in 2008? What was the context in 2014? As soon as we knew and we became clear on who this guy was, we cut our losses.
You've never been to the island?
No way.
Now, these Epstein files, viewers, are not a one-off headline. This is no flash in the pan. There are reports of at least 3 million more documents that are still under wraps. And when, not if, those pages see daylight, this storm could roar back, because this story doesn't fade quietly. It resurfaces, it reverberates, it rattles the rafters. But for now, the road ahead looks uncertain. The Trump administration has signaled there will be no further investigation, no new probe, no second sweep. And justice for victims? Well, for many that remains a question mark. And still not a full stop. The files may be closed for now, but the shadows they cast are long and daunting. Thanks so much for watching this special broadcast.